Number 10. Life after gorilla. Coco the gorilla was fluent in American Sign Language, and through her ability to communicate, scientists were able to discern how deep their emotional awareness actually is. But just how far it really goes is a mystery. Coco seemed to understand the idea of death and even mourn her loved ones. She once had a really deep conversation with the late and beloved actor Robin Williams, and when news broke that he died, Coco went still and was thoughtful. She signed Cry Lip, which means cry woman. When she was shown a skeleton, she could determine that it was dead. After showing her the skeleton, Dr. Patterson asked her, "Where do animals go when they die?" And Coco responded, "A comfortable hole." Then she gave a kiss goodbye. Something that occurred for humans that allowed us to create the world we know now was something called the cognitive revolution. At some point, for whatever reason, humans were suddenly able to imagine worlds and ideas outside of our current reality. This led the way for communities united under ideas of religion and city structures, etc. This moment with Coco sparked a philosophical debate about whether this event really was isolated to just Homo sapiens. If animals have an understanding of life and death, how far does that understanding extend? Number 9. A head for music. If this happened more often, I might consider slamming my head against a wall to see if it worked. Derek AMATO was never taught how to play an instrument. He kinda puttered around on like guitar and piano, but he wasn't very good. But suddenly, after enduring a traumatic brain injury, he woke up as a musical genius. After hitting his head in a swimming pool, he lost 35% of his hearing and memory, but somehow became proficient at piano. While visiting a friend after the incident, he suddenly had the inexplicable desire to sit down and play. He says that he could picture the stream of notes in his mind, and he began playing like he'd never left the piano. In a blog post he noted, "As I shut my eyes, I found these black and white structures moving from left to right, which in fact would represent in my mind a fluid and continuous stream of musical notation." Though he develops very harsh migraines and extreme sensitivity to fluorescent lights, which causes him sometimes to pass out, Derek says he wouldn't have it any other way. I would feel the same way, man. That would be an amazing talent to have. Number 8. The dancing plague. Of course we're gonna talk about this, and here we go again. The dancing plague. Now the only illness I've ever heard of that's even close to the dancing plague is the jitterbug. Boo-boo. The dancing plague, though it sounds ridiculous, actually happened and is well documented. Doctors have no idea what caused it, but we really need someone to go back in time and settle what the heck happened once and for all. The events go as follows. It's July 1518 in Strasbourg when a woman named Frau Trophia starts jiving in the city center. Within a week, 40 people joined her. By the end of the month, there were 400. Local physicians were baffled but presumed everyone was just depressed and needed the dance, but presumed everyone was just like depressed, so they bought a band and professional dancers and was like, hey, have at her. But then people started dancing until they dropped dead. By that point, physicians had enough of the madness and whisked the dancing revelers off to the mountain top to pray. Was this the origin of the Harlem Shake? Was this like some kind of OG Woodstock? Who knows? Number 7. Where the heck is Cleopatra? Somewhere in the lands of Alexandria, Egypt lies the great and honorable corpse of the one, the only Cleopatra. But despite decades upon decades of searching, her tomb has yet to be uncovered. If it's ever recovered, it will be the biggest find of the century. For over 2,000 years, the last queen of Egypt, lover of Caesar and Mark Antony, where she lies is a mystery. Now, part of why it might be so difficult is that Alexandria sank into the Mediterranean almost 1,000 years ago. One theory, however, stated by Kathleen Martinez, was that Cleopatra believed herself to be a goddess and therefore would have been buried in the temple of Isis and Osiris. Cleopatra died by having one of her servants smuggle in a venomous snake. The snake was believed to be a symbol to her followers of her deific beliefs. After all, why get a snake to bite you when you could just drink poison? I guess she just wanted to go out in style. Number 6. The $10 million garden. Do you know how many times a day I dream about accidentally discovering buried treasure? Like, I'm not sure I'm alone. I don't think I'm alone. Except this treasure actually holds a key to the portal that takes me into the world of Pirates of the Caribbean and puts me on the poop deck of the Black Pearl, and I look up and there's Captain Jack Sparrow, and all of a sudden I have a cutlass in my hand and anyways, I'm getting carried away as usual. But as unbelievable as that story is, something almost as miraculous happened to a couple in California. They discovered a box of treasure worth $10 million and they have no idea who it belongs to. Nearly all the coins date back to 1847, 1894 and are in mint condition. The couple chose to remain anonymous in order to prevent a flood to their property, but it's honestly like they found the gold at the end of the rainbow. It's insane. I'd keep an eye out for an angry leprechaun if I were them, you know? Don't steal my gold. Number 5, the Phaistos disc. While some archaeologists have claimed to have solved it, the full translation of this piece remains up for debate. The Phaistos disc is a 16cm double-sided clay tablet that dates back to the Minoan era, 1900 to 1700 BCE, before Common Era. It was found in 1908 at the old palace of Minoan Phaistos on Crete. It is stamped with 242 symbols on either side set in a spiral arrangement, and the meaning of the symbols is unknown. It is estimated that the disc represents the Minoan language, but we aren't sure. There are 45 different symbols, each appearing to have been individually stamped on, some even erased and redone. It is estimated that each symbol represents a group of words or a meaning, but exactly what they are, we have no idea. No stamps corresponding to the ones on the disc have been found, which would give more clues. Without concrete evidence, some archaeologists speculate that it could be a hymn to the earth goddess, or a court list, an index of religious centers, a letter of greeting, a fertility ritual, and even music notes. I once bought a necklace of the Phaistos disc while in Greece, but sadly lost it while moving. I treated myself this year on my birthday and bought a new one from Greece, because to me it has always represented being okay with the fact that some things we might never have answers to. So that's why I wear it. Number 4, BERMEJA Island. BERMEJA Island was a tiny uninhabited island that sat just northwest of the Yucatan Peninsula. It was a common fixture on maps drawn by Spanish explorers, occasionally referred to as Bermeja. But then, suddenly it started disappearing from maps altogether. The last map it appeared on was in the 1921 edition of Geographic Atlas of the Mexican Republic. So where in the heck did it go? Did it just pull some kind of Atlantis act? Was it one of the victims of global warming? Was it bombed? Underwater earthquake? Who knows? In 1997 there was a renewed interest in searching for it, but unfortunately nothing turned up. Not a single sign. How could a whole island disappear without a trace? Luckily, there weren't any people on it. So that's one upside. Number 3, the Kentucky meat shower. Yeah, sounds gross. It was. The forecast was meaty on the March morning of Bath County, Kentucky, soon to be Kentucky Fried. It was close to lunchtime and Mrs. Crouch, a local farmer's wife, witnessed the impossible. She noticed that it was a clear, beautiful day, but then suddenly lumps of raw meat started falling from the sky. For several minutes, lumps as large as 3 inches fell until it stopped as sudden as it started. Before long, the town heard of this miraculous omen and witnessed an area of 100 yards covered in meat. Most believed it was beef, but a local butcher claimed it was too greasy and resembled bear instead. Several brave souls, like brave, the bravest of the brave, I wouldn't even do this. Brave souls cooked up some of it, but no one could agree on the single type. One saying it was venison, others saying it was mutton, fish. Yeah, everything from human flesh to vulture vomit was proposed, but to this day, no one knows how or why this happened. Number 2, the Crooked Forest. In West Pomerania, Poland, there's a forest that continues to boggle the minds of scientists. 400 pine trees, for whatever reason, grow a foot off the ground, then make a 90-degree turn and arc in a uniform curve, then continue to grow straight up until like 50 feet. The trees were planted back in 1930 and have since become an anomaly no one can explain. I mean, we've all seen pine trees. They're like one of the most common trees, I think. I mean, they're all over Canada. Anyways, I'm just speaking for our country. Some hypothesize that gravity is involved, but it doesn't really hold up given that gravity pulls things downward and this is literally whoop, not doing that. So short answer, a lot of theories, but no one really knows. And last but not least, the Mary Celeste. Yay, a ghost story, perfect for spooky season. Woo! The Mary Celeste is the ghost ship story. On November 7th, 1872, the 282-ton brigantine Mary Celeste set sail from New York Harbor to Genoa. The 282-ton brigantine Mary Celeste set sail from New York Harbor to Italy. Less than a month later, however, the ship was seen adrift about 400 miles east of the Azores at full sail. A passing British ship investigated and found no sign of Captain Benjamin S. Briggs, his wife Sarah, and their 2-year-old daughter, and of course, the crew was nowhere to be seen. It was empty. The ship was undamaged, though there was a missing lifeboat and several feet of water in the hold. The ship, however, was still loaded with 6 months worth of food and water. Where had they gone? Why would an experienced captain abandon a perfectly sound ship? If it was pirates, then why would they leave the food and water? If it was mutiny, then why was the rest of the crew gone? Theories surrounding all of that, including a giant octopus, have all been put forth, but the mystery remains as unknown as the great wide ocean itself. Starting off in our number 10 spot, we have the Jansen.
In 2006, the Australian Coast Watch found a ship floating out at sea that was completely empty with a broken tow rope. Finding a ship floating with no one aboard is always a strange kind of mystery, but things only got more mysterious from there on out. Investigators had absolutely nothing to go off of that could give them any kind of clues. The name of the ship was printed on the side, but that's it. There was nothing else to identify the ship, there were no documents or belongings, no reports of missing boats, no records of distress signals, like literally nothing. They can't even figure out who it belonged to or where it came from. Their best guess is that the ship was possibly used to supply food and fuel to fishing boats, but that does not explain why no one tried to save it or even look for it. Was there someone on it when it got lost? Who knows? In our number 9 spot today we have Harold Holt. Harold was the 17th Prime Minister of Australia until his presumed death in 1967. In December of that year, Harold was with 4 other people when he convinced everyone to stop at Cheviot Beach for a swim. The weather conditions were pretty rough, so only one other person actually went into the water with him. Holt said he knew the beach like the back of his hand, but sadly he was taken by the sea when going for a swim. Despite the subsequent investigation that ensued, which involved the biggest search operation in Australian history, no body has ever been found. The disappearance has been the source of mystery since the day it happened, with many conspiracy theories being created around it. Some believed he faked his own death, while others believe he was killed by the CIA, and of course there are people who believe that it was simply just a case of getting caught in a riptide. Whatever truly happened here may be a mystery, but it is also an extreme tragedy. In our number 8 spot today we have Jelly Rain. Back in 1994, residents of Oakville, which is a small city in Washington, reported a series of mysterious translucent gelatinous blobs covering the ground. From the first report, over the next 3 weeks, more discoveries of this strange substance began to roll in, with many people claiming that they had fallen ill as a result of coming into contact with it. Many people believed that this substance had actually come down from the skies like rain, as each of the blobs was about the size of a grain of rice, and they were strewn about the ground just as rain would be. There are of course tons of theories as to what this substance could be, and that includes the fallout from some sort of military weapons test, but to this day nothing has ever been confirmed, and it remains just as much of a mystery as it was 27 years ago. In our number 7 spot today we have Derek Amato. One day in 2006, Derek Amato was having a fun day at the pool with friends before a life-changing moment occurred. Derek yelled for his buddy to pass him the football as he dove into the pool, but just one moment later, Derek had found his head hitting the concrete floor of the pool so hard that he gave himself an extremely severe concussion. The injury caused him to lose 35% of his hearing in one ear and left him with headaches and memory loss, but also a newfound ability. Just 4 days after the accident, Derek found himself somewhere he had never seen himself, in front of a piano. Despite never having played before, Derek found his hands gliding across the keyboard like he was a seasoned professional. He said, quote, "As I shut my eyes, I found these black and white structures moving from left to right, which in fact would represent in my mind a fluid and continuous stream of musical notation." While Derek has had to suffer through a multitude of side effects from his injury, he continues to say that he believes he was given a gift. This is truly an interesting story, but no one can quite figure out exactly how this happened. Derek isn't the only person with a story like this, and all are as equally amazing as they are perplexing. In our number 6 spot today we have the WOW signal. In August of 1977, there was a radio telescope at Ohio State University that detected a strange signal. The radio picked up a pulse of radiation that was super unusual and that was coming from somewhere by the constellation of Sagittarius. The signal lasted for 37 seconds, and it has been commonly referred to as the WOW signal because of the fact that the astronomers observing it were so shocked at the time that they wrote "wow" on the printout from the telescope. This signal was so shocking because it was in a band of radio frequencies that are internationally banned on Earth. There are a multitude of natural sources for radiation in space that would cover a multitude of frequencies, so there are scientists who are skeptical that this could be proof of alien life, but skepticism doesn't mean it should be ruled out. Maybe this signal came from a huge astronomical event, or perhaps intelligent alien life with a very powerful transmitter who are trying to contact us. At the end of the day, this signal was detected in 1977, and we still don't know exactly where it's coming from or why it exists, so who's to say for sure? In our number 5 spot today we have the Mothman. Back on a dark November night in 1966, 4 young people, 2 couples, claimed that they saw a tall bird-like monster that had glowing red eyes. They claimed they saw it while they were cruising down a back road near Point Pleasant, which sits in rural West Virginia. They explained that whatever this creature was, it rose into the air, unfolded these huge bat-like wings, and chased them as they sped away as fast as they could, totally frightened by what they had just seen. From here, stories of the Mothman continued to spread, with more sightings coming in the following weeks. This story, of course, is what inspired the 2002 movie The Mothman Prophecies, which was based off of John Keel's book that told the stories of these uncanny sightings and experiences in relation to this mysterious creature or being. This is because he believes that this creature was somehow mysteriously linked to the collapse of the Silver Bridge in Point Pleasant in December of 1967. This bridge collapse took the lives of 46 people, and that included some of those who had said that they had an experience with the Mothman. Some people believe the story, others think it's just folklore and gullible people, so here I am asking, what do you think? In our number 4 spot today we have the Mary Celeste. Okay, I'll admit, this one's out of our lifetime, but I mean, the Mary Celeste, it's a classic mystery. The Mary Celeste first set sail on November 7th, 1872 with a cargo full of alcohol. What happened over the next month isn't quite clear, but what we do know is that on the afternoon of December 5th of the same year, another ship on the Atlantic crossing found her drifting somewhere between Azores and Portugal. The captain of this ship knew the captain of the Mary Celeste and knew that he was a skilled and capable sailor, so he was extremely suspicious. He ordered a crew to board the Mary Celeste, and when they did, they found that the ship had been deserted, but it was in full seaworthy condition, so why had they abandoned it? Especially the captain. The captain of the ship that found this derelict split his crew and sailed the Mary Celeste to Gibraltar for more investigations, but despite this, the captain, his family, and the crew of 7 that were on board the Mary Celeste simply just disappeared, and no one knows what happened or where they could have gone. I think this one is so famous because it has no answers tied to it at all. Like, it really is just one of those mysteries with next to nothing to go off of in terms of clues. In our number 3 spot today we have alien visitation. Charles Hickson and Calvin Parker are 2 men who are from Mississippi, and back in 1973, while fishing, the pair swear that they were abducted by aliens. They say that they heard strange sounds and saw weird lights above their heads. When they looked up, they saw an oval-shaped object that they say was about 40 feet across and 10 feet high. The pair explained that during this abduction they were fully conscious, but they were unable to move. It isn't exactly clear what they entailed, but the men say that the extraterrestrials conducted experiments on them before releasing them. Of course, many people said that the men were lying, but both of them passed a polygraph test. Polygraphs aren't the most accurate tool in the world, but the chance of both of them passing is a lot slimmer than if it was just one person. This has led some people to suggest that perhaps they experienced some sort of combined dream, but even if that is the case, how that could have happened is still very much a mystery. Who knows if they actually experienced something or not, and if they did, what exactly it was. In our number 2 spot today we have Oumuamua. So a few years ago, scientists all agreed that we had found an object that was flying through our solar system, and it was widely agreed that it was an interstellar comet that had swung out from around another star. But upon closer examination, they realized that something was propelling it and causing it to accelerate, and this is when the debate really started, because they just don't know why. A.V. Loeb, who's a Harvard University astrophysicist, proposed the idea that rather than a comet, this could be an alien probe that was being pushed by a light sail, which is a very wide but extremely thin piece of material that accelerates by being pushed by solar radiation. Other scientists didn't agree with this and instead said that it's possible that hydrogen ice could have melted off of the object in a way that would mimic a rocket engine or something of that nature, but in August of last year, Avi wrote in a study that hydrogen ice is too easily heated and it would have melted off long before it reached our solar system. I guess we just have to wait it out while the scientists debate and gather more evidence to really know what's going on with this one. In our number 1 spot today we have the MV Joyita. Around 5 a.m. on October 3rd, 1955, the MV Joyita set sail in the South Pacific. The voyage was meant to take between 41 to 48 hours, but by October 6th, the ship hadn't turned up at its destination. No ship or land-based operator reported receiving any kind of distress call from the crew, so a search and rescue mission was immediately launched. From October 6th to October 12th, the search covered roughly 100,000 square miles, but alas, no one nor the ship were found. 5 weeks later, on November 10th, a captain of another ship spotted the Joyita more than 600 miles from her scheduled route. The ship was capsizing and listing heavily, but it was extremely buoyant and would not sink. Despite this, however, the crew of 25 members were completely missing, and they have never been seen again. 4 tons of cargo were missing from the ship, and the ship itself was in quite poor condition. The pipes were corroded, and while the radio worked, the wiring was faulty, so there was only a range of about 3.2 kilometers. Because of how the ship was built, investigators are puzzled as to why the crew didn't remain on the ship, as it wouldn't have sunk, but this has led them to believe that perhaps something happened to the captain, where he was killed or incapacitated, which would have left someone less experienced in charge. To this day, no one is quite sure what happened to those aboard the ship, how it capsized, or where they ended up. It is all very much a mystery.
Starting off this countdown, we have the TAOS hum. Back in the early 1990s, residents of the town of TAOS in north-central New Mexico started hearing a weird humming noise. Since then, more and more people have also heard this weird noise. They describe it as a mysterious and faint, low-frequency hum in the desert air. Now, only 2% of the residents have actually reported hearing this noise. Some believe that it's a result of mass hysteria, like one person heard it and then people were just freaking themselves out, being like, oh my god, I think I hear it too. Or they think it's the government spying on them or blasting them with some weapon. Now, equipment was set up and tests were done to see if they could detect this noise. And after a lengthy investigation, nothing was found. So, is it all in their heads? Or is the government up to something? Coming in at number 9, we have the dancing plague. This is the scariest thing I have ever heard of, I swear. So in 1518, the citizens of France were plagued by a weird illness. Basically, it caused them to dance uncontrollably and unwillingly for days. This lasted for 2 months until it just randomly stopped. It all started in July of 1518 when a woman named Miss Trophia started to begin dancing. She was unable to stop and kept dancing until she passed out. When she woke up, she continued to dance for days. Then suddenly it happened to 30 more people. Eventually, around 400 people were a victim to this weird dancing plague. In fact, it killed a couple people per day and injured hundreds. Now, there are a couple of theories as to why this happened. 1, they were all possessed by a demon. 2, they had overheated blood. Or 3, theory goes that they ate bread made from rye flour that was contaminated with ergot. Ergot is known to cause people to convulse. However, these are only theories. This mysterious case has never been solved. And does anyone know about that creepypasta about the song and dance man? Doesn't it sound like that story, but it like came to life? I swear to god, if he is real, I'm going with Elon Musk to Mars. This isn't even a joke. Moving on to number 8, we have the earthquake lights. This is something that occurs sometimes before, during, or after large earthquakes. Basically, blue, white, or multicolored lights have been seen flashing in the sky. The lights only lasted a few seconds, but the longest it has lasted has been a minute. Now, these lights aren't new. They have been reported back to around 373 BCE. The majority of reports, though, come from the 20th century. It's pretty weird and no one knows what causes it. In fact, scientists didn't even believe this was a thing until somebody captured it on video. In 2010, Chilean journalist Cecilia Lagos witnessed the earthquake lights. She said, and I quote, "I saw through my window while I was still in bed. I saw the sky changing colors. It was absolutely surreal. I really thought it was the end of the world. That was the most terrifying thing, seeing the sky changing colors." Now, there are some theories as to what causes it. One is that it's a result of rocks grinding against each other. Maybe it creates an electrical charge that makes the sky glow. Others believe that it's a warning sign sent from heaven that an earthquake is about to happen. Coming in at number 7, we have the black birds. Back in 2011, thousands of blackbirds in Arkansas dropped dead just after New Year's. Residents woke up to find thousands of dead red-winged blackbirds just laying on the ground. The dead birds on the road went on for miles, and residents were freaking out, which is totally understandable because I would have been like, yo, that's a bad omen, the world's about to end. Anyways, a town supervisor got the call and had to go clean up the birds. He said he cleaned up anywhere from 4,000 to 5,000 dead birds. Isn't that crazy? And to this day, we don't know what made these birds all of a sudden just drop dead. Theory 1 is that the birds were killed by lightning or a high altitude hailstorm, whereas conspiracy theorists believe that it was a result of a sonic boom. Now, they did end up taking some of the birds in for testing, but they still couldn't determine their cause of death. In our 6th spot today, we have the PATOM crater. This is the name of a giant crater located in Siberia. It's about 520 feet wide and 139 feet tall, and we literally don't know how it formed or what the heck happened. The crater was first officially reported in 1949 by a Russian geologist, but it dates back to over 500 years ago. Some believe that it formed as a result of a nuclear explosion, or a steam explosion that happened back in the day from things shifting around in the Earth's core. Then others believe it to be more paranormal. Locals have noticed that the area surrounding it is dead. Nothing will grow there. On top of that, animals refuse to go anywhere near it. So they believe something spooky or sinister is going on with this crater thing. We're now at our 5th and halfway mark with the NAGA fireballs. Every year, hundreds of fireballs explode out of Thailand's Mekong River. Since then, they have been given the name the NAGA fireballs. You heard me. Fireballs coming out of a river, which seems impossible since fire and water don't mix. Anyways, this typically happens a couple of days in October and May when the Earth is closest to the sun. According to the locals, the river is home to a big serpent that breathes fire. The fireballs that come out of the river are from the serpent spewing them out of its mouth. In fact, a number of people have claimed to see the serpent and provided a number of photos for evidence. Sadly, they're always grainy. The other explanation is that they are caused by pockets of methane bubbling up from the river. But as I mentioned before, we still don't know for sure. In our 4th spot today, we have the UFO battle. In 1942 in Los Angeles, something flew over the skies. Now, the country was on high alert at this time because of the attack on Pearl Harbor, so they were monitoring everything very carefully. When the thing flew over the sky, they shot at it with 1,500 shells, and it still managed to stay in the sky. When the shots were fired, people woke up and were like, whoa, what's going on? That's when they saw weird lights in the sky along with a spaceship. To this day, no one knows what they really saw. The government was like, oh, no, it was just a weather balloon. Yeah, you guys are just freaking yourself out. But if it was a weather balloon, why were they firing at it? And how come no wreckage of the balloon was ever found? Just saying, guys, just saying. In our 3rd spot, we have spontaneous human combustion. Now, I've talked about this briefly before with the case of Matilda Rooney, a woman who literally just exploded one night, like somehow a fire started within her and then boom. Well, this isn't the first time that it happened. It also happened in 1951 with a woman named Mary Reeser. One day, a man was delivering her mail. He tried the doorknob and noticed that the handle was warm. He also noticed that her apartment was warm, which was odd because all the windows were open. When he entered the apartment, nothing inside was weird or out of place, but there was a pile of ashes in the corner and Mary's left foot. That's all that was left of Mary. Isn't that so weird? Just somehow she into thin air. For her to turn into a pile of ashes like that, she would have had to have been in a 3,000 degree fire that burned for several hours. So that's just freaky. In our 2nd spot today, we have the BELMEZ faces. In 1971, a woman named Maria Gomez was cleaning up her kitchen when she noticed a stain forming on her concrete kitchen floor. Later, the stain developed into a creepy, disturbing face. Not only that, but the stain would move positions on the floor. Maria tried to scrub the face away, but it did not work. In fact, her husband ended up destroying the concrete floor and then re-cementing it all. But the face mysteriously reappeared a week later. That's not all. Soon, images of these weird stained faces appeared all over the house. Later, the floor under the kitchen was excavated and they found 10 skeletons buried underneath there. So could it be their faces that were appearing all over the house? To this day, the stained faces are still there and no one knows how they formed. And in our number 1 spot, we have Betty and Barney Hill. This is one of the most famous alien abduction stories of all time. So husband and wife Barney and Betty Hill were driving home one night after having a vacation at Niagara Falls. It was September 19th, 1961, and everything was going well for the two. That was until around midnight when they saw this weird bright falling star in the sky. Then they were like, okay, whoa, it's not a falling star, it looks like it's following us, whatever it is. So Barney pulled over, and sure enough, this bright thing was coming right at them. When it got closer, they saw humanoids inside of a rotating 40-foot long UFO. The next thing they remember is hearing a bunch of beeps, and then they passed out. They woke up 2 hours later and were 35 miles down the road from where they originally pulled over. They reported what happened to them, and obviously people were skeptical, but a lot of things proved otherwise. Both Barney and Betty had scrapes on the top of their shoes, suggesting they had been dragged. Betty also had these marks on her dress as well, and they underwent a series of interviews, and everything they said always matched. To this day, we don't know what to think. Did they really get abducted by aliens? If they didn't, then what the heck happened to them?
Number 10. Hestilin lights. While there are countless reports around the world of floating lights flying through the sky, some say they're UFOs, some say will-o'-the-wisps, others still think that they're just tricks of the light being picked up on camera. But the Hestilin lights are different. First reported in the 1930s, these floating orbs appear high in the sky over the Hestilin Valley in central Norway, and can be of varying sizes and colors. They shift and move throughout the evening and have been documented to appear about 10 to 20 times every year, though strangely in the 80s they were reported 15 to 20 times per week. In 1983, a group of students and engineers were tasked with researching and documenting the lights to see what they could learn, and in 1998 a research station called the Hestilin Automatic Measurement Station was built to analyze the phenomenon, and they tracked the lights moving at speeds of up to an astonishing 30,000 miles an hour. There are many videos and photos of the lights, but in 2007 a particularly notable video was filmed with one light splitting into many, rejoining and then spreading out into a straight line. The scientists tasked with measuring the data from the site say more research needs to be done, as there's still no real explanation, as they've run through all of the possible reasons for their existence and ruled them out. You can head there at any time of the year to see if you can catch them on tape yourself. Number 9. Glowing apparition. Before we get to this one, guys, make sure to like and subscribe if you're enjoying the video so that I can keep bringing you the most amazing videos. A Reddit user uploaded this video to the Unexplained videos subreddit, saying that he recorded it the very first night he put out his new security camera. It shows an oblong shape glowing and floating across his yard, all the way through the camera's vision, and it seems strangely spectral the way it moves. Users debate in the comments about what it could be. Some think it's an insect or a caterpillar called a cankerworm, which produces silk and it's blowing in the wind, and the infrared light of the camera bounces off the silk in a funny way. But I don't think that explains the way that it moves so smoothly across the yard. Others think that it's a ghostly apparition that he was lucky to catch on tape, but we'll never truly know. Number 8. Moon music. Okay, so this next one is an audio recording and not caught on camera, but I still think that it was weird enough to make it onto this list. Tapes and transcripts were declassified in 2016 of the Apollo 10 mission in 1969, where the astronauts on board report hearing strange music, and though they were traveling behind the dark side of the moon, what they heard wasn't Pink Floyd, but what they described as outer space type music. The creepiest part of all of this is that since they were traveling behind the moon, they had no radio contact with NASA or anything else. They were totally removed from the world. So where did this music come from? Is it aliens having an interstellar jam session, or a broadcast from the moon, or was it just radio interference from some other satellite or spacecraft? Let me know what you think in the comments. Number 7. Russian Beast. In this widely circulated video, 2 Russian soldiers can be seen on guard duty outside of some sort of base. Suddenly, one of the soldiers falls to the ground and seems to be dragged away by some sort of creature that we can't make out in the footage. His partner tries to help, but to no avail. He then runs inside to find more people to assist, but comes back alone, and his partner is gone. Shortly after, we see a strange figure in a black cloak or jacket exiting the doorway of the base. And to this day, none of these events have been explained, and we don't know if the soldiers survived or were taken by the mysterious beast. Number 6. Back deck duende. On an evening in fall, an unsuspecting couple caught something troubling on their motion sensor doorbell cam. In this video, video, we can see something small running across their back porch. The strange shape of the creature doesn't look like any animal I can recognize, and at times it almost appears translucent. The fact that it seems to be pacing back and forth is somewhat concerning too. What is it waiting for? Some users in the comments think that it may be a duende, a creature from Iberian folklore akin to a gnome, but these little guys aren't always friendly. Some versions of their lore say that they lure young people into the night to steal them away, so this would be quite the scary sight to be sitting right outside your house. However, some others in the comments joke that it might be one of the small soldiers coming back to take revenge, and if you remember that movie, it's about as plausible as anything else. Number 5. Poltergeist or plant. This video starts with a girl getting ready to perform a dance routine, but they captured something even more amazing than whatever dance moves she was going to bust out. As the camera operator moves to get a better view, a dark figure can be seen dashing across the frame right in front of the girl. Its strange shape drew a lot of attention online and sparked debate, leading some to say that the figure is a stationary plant that was in the shot when the person filming panned the camera too fast. But the movement of the shadow doesn't seem to line up with that camera movement, so I'm still not sure what's going on here. Number 4. Antarctic NINGEN. The first sightings of one of these bipedal creatures was in 2002 when members of a whale research ship saw it coming to the surface of the sub-Antarctic Ocean. However, when they got too close, it returned to the sea. More sightings have happened since, and photos show a strange white two-legged animal with no arms. The name NINGEN actually means human being in Japanese, but this thing doesn't look like any human I've ever seen. Other video evidence has surfaced of a NINGEN lying on the sea floor, but some people think that that was just a type of snake eel. And people have tried to dismiss the sighting on the ice as a conveniently shaped iceberg, which would make sense, but the odds of an iceberg looking just like a creature from folklore are pretty low. Number 3. Hotel room haunting. When these two tourists checked in to the Crescent Hotel in Arkansas, they didn't expect to find an extra guest staying in their room. As they took a video of their room for an Instagram story, a strange shadow appeared on the wall, followed by something running across the room silently. They didn't notice until they watched the footage back, so it seems that it only appears on camera. I've paused this video over and over, and it looks like a small person in white clothes, but the hotel staff swears that no one else checked in with them or was up in the room at that time. The fact that the guests didn't see it until after filming is one of the most interesting parts of this though. Number 2. Lights out. The person who caught this very creepy happening on camera is a TikTok personality who usually posts comedic or music videos, but this video he posted is far from his normal content. The video shows Aiden standing outside of his bedroom, telling the viewers that he just saw something terrifying. When he points the camera at his open bedroom door and turns off the lights, a shadowy figure appears out of nowhere, only to disappear again when the lights come back on. He does this multiple times, and even from another angle, where the creature seems to get closer, at which point he gets away from there as quick as he can. Smart move. Though for my own sanity, I'd love to believe that this was staged. There doesn't seem to be any camera cuts, and frankly, he's not a good enough actor to pull off the genuinely terrified reaction, though it does seem very similar to the YouTube video turned movie Lights Out. And finally, we reach our number 1 most unexplained phenomena caught on camera, the NASA alien sightings. Most UFO sightings can be dismissed as a civilian not recognizing a military aircraft or a weather balloon, but these ones are different. In 2021, NASA declassified multiple videos filmed by US Navy and commercial pilots showing objects that can't be explained by our current understanding of physics or aviation. The objects appear to hang in the air, insanely stable, and then move at incredible speeds, even disappearing off the radar and into the ocean. One of the pilots is heard exclaiming, "There's a whole fleet of them, look!" which is pretty troubling when they don't know what the aircraft is, or whose it is. The US and other governments have stated that the aircraft do not belong to them, though some of the appearances have been above US military bases, so maybe it's a form of experimental aircraft? But the current administration has expressed concern, stating that the UFOs are of extremely advanced technology and that as far as they're aware, no country is even close to achieving. Though if it was an experimental aircraft, do you think they'd tell us? Since a few of these sightings show them flying down into the ocean, but no crash, debris, or evidence is found of them being there, that may imply that this aircraft can also function underwater, and possibly has even been existing there for a long time. I personally believe that aliens are out there somewhere. With the vastness of the known universe and the possibility of more universes being out there, I think it's naive to assume that we're the only intelligent life that exists. Though I had always thought aliens wouldn't find us interesting enough to visit, the fact that these videos have NASA, the Pentagon, and so many other scientists baffled is pretty convincing.